At the birthday party of a billionaire's disabled son, everyone turned their backs, except the waitress. Richard Morgan held his son Peter's hand tightly as guests arrived for the party in the ballroom of the most luxurious hotel in New York City. The 12-year-old boy, with his almond-shaped eyes characteristic of Down syndrome, wore his best light blue shirt and looked eagerly toward the entrance. "Dad, are my friends coming soon?" Peter asked for the 5th time that afternoon, nervously adjusting his shirt buttons. Richard felt his heart clench. He had sent invitations to all the families in their social circle, to his classmates at the private school where Peter studied, and to the children of his business partners. The party was scheduled for 3 in the afternoon. It was already 3:30. The ballroom was impeccably decorated with blue and white balloons, Peter's favorite colors. He had hired the best caterers, brought in a famous magician, and set up an inflatable play area in the garden, all to see his son smile. Emily, the waitress who worked at the hotel's events, watched the scene as she arranged trays of appetizers. She noticed how the boy stood on his tiptoes every time someone passed through the entrance, hopeful it might be a guest. By 4 o'clock, only 3 families had shown up. The parents quickly dropped off their kids and left, citing urgent commitments. The children, clearly instructed, kept their distance from Peter, huddling in a corner and whispering among themselves. "Dad, why doesn't Michael want to play with me?" Peter tugged at his father's sleeve, his eyes beginning to well. Up, Richard Morgan, the man who ran a telecommunications empire, who closed million-dollar deals without blinking, didn't know how to answer his son. How could he explain that the world still wasn't ready to accept differences? Emily, who had just served soda to the few children present, overheard one of them say, "My mom told me not to get too close. She said it's better this way." The waitress felt her blood boil. She herself had a brother with an intellectual disability and knew how much prejudice hurt. She looked at Peter, who was now sitting alone at one of the decorated tables, swinging his legs and staring at the 3-tiered cake no one would sing happy birthday to. That's when Emily made a decision. She went to the kitchen, picked out the prettiest cupcake she could find with whipped cream frosting and a cherry on top, and walked determinedly over to Peter. "Hey, birthday boy, it's your special day, isn't it?" she said with a warm smile, crouching down to his level. Peter looked up, surprised someone was talking to him. "Yeah, it is. My name's Peter. Today I'm 12. 12? That's awesome! I brought a special cupcake just for you." "Want to know a secret?" Emily whispered conspiratorially. "This one has a magic ingredient." "Really? What is it?" Peter's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Happiness. Whoever eats it stays happy all day." Peter laughed, a genuine sound that hadn't been heard in the ballroom for hours. Richard watched from a distance, moved by the simple kindness of this woman. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers out. Now, back to the story. Emily sat beside Peter and began talking to him about his favorite cartoons, school, and what he liked to do. The boy, who had been downcast just moments ago, now gestured excitedly as he talked about his toy car collection. Emily, the sharp voice of Karen, the catering supervisor, cut through the moment. "What are you doing? Get back to work. Right now." Emily stood up but whispered to Peter first. "I'll be right back, okay? Don't eat the cupcake yet. We'll have it together." She went to meet Karen, who pulled her aside. "Have you lost your mind? Do you know who that man is?" "Richard Morgan. And you're getting involved with his son?" "I'm just being kind to a child at his birthday party," Emily replied firmly. "Kind? You're a waitress, not a party entertainer. Get back to your station right now or you're fired." Emily looked at Peter, who was waving at her from across the room, holding the cupcake as if it were a treasure. Then she glanced at Richard, who seemed devastated seeing the empty hall. The few children still there were already leaving, dragged away by hurried parents who barely greeted the host. "Then fire me," Emily said, removing her apron. "But I won't abandon that child on his birthday." Karen stood speechless as Emily walked back to Peter's table. Richard approached, intrigued by the scene. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan," Emily said, "but may I spend the rest of the afternoon with your son? As a friend, not as an employee." Richard felt a lump in his throat. Here was a stranger, giving up her job just so Peter wouldn't be alone. I'd be very grateful, he managed to say. What neither of them knew was that this encounter would change their lives forever. Emily wasn't just a waitress. She carried a secret that, once revealed, would shake the foundations of the Morgan family. For the next 2 hours, Emily turned the empty party into an intimate and special celebration. She played with Peter, sang happy birthday just for him, helped him cut the first slice of cake. The boy laughed as he hadn't in months. "Emily, do you want to be my friend?" Peter suddenly asked, with the disarming sincerity of children. "Of course I do. We're going to be great friends." Richard watched from a distance, fighting back tears. His wife Helen had passed away 3 years ago, leaving a huge void in their lives. Since then, he'd tried to compensate for her absence with expensive gifts and lavish parties, but nothing had filled the hole in Peter's heart. Until now. When the afternoon came to an end, Richard approached Emily. "Please, let me repay you for today. For your job." "That's not necessary, Mr. Morgan. I did it from the heart, but..." She hesitated. "If you'll allow me, I'd like to visit Peter from time to time. I have experience with special needs children. My brother also has special needs." "You'd be very welcome. Peter clearly took to you. But what about your job?" Emily shrugged. "I'll find another. Some things are more important than money." Richard pulled a card from his pocket. "Please, take this. I've been needing someone to help with Peter. Not as a nanny, but as a friend. Someone who understands him. The pay would be much better than the hotels." Emily took the card, thoughtful. There was something in Richard's eyes, a deep sadness she recognized. It was the same one she saw in the mirror every morning. "May I think about it?" "Of course. Peter, come say goodbye to Emily." The boy ran over and hugged Emily tightly. "Are you coming back tomorrow?" "I can't promise tomorrow, but I'll be back soon, okay?" As they left, Peter held his father's hand in one of his and carefully carried the cupcake Emily had given him in the other, still untouched. "Dad, why are you crying?" Richard hadn't realized tears were streaming down his face. "Tears of happiness, son. You made a special friend today." In the hotel parking lot, Emily waited for the bus, still processing the day's events. Her phone rang. It was Karen. "Listen here, you ungrateful girl. Do you have any idea what you just did? You threw away a job for a kid you don't even know." "I met him today, Karen, and it was worth it." "You'll regret this. No one in this city will hire you once they hear you walked off the job." Emily hung up the phone. She knew Karen had influence in the industry and that she'd probably have trouble finding another job in catering or hotels. But Peter's smile was worth any sacrifice. What she didn't imagine was that in Richard Morgan's office, the businessman was making urgent calls. "Charles, I need you to investigate everything about Emily Johnson." "Yes, the hotel waitress." "Everything. Background, family, references, but discreetly." On the other end of the line, Charles Wilson, the company's head of security, noted the instructions. "Any problems, sir?" "On the contrary. She might be the solution I've been searching for years, but I need to be sure." That night, in the modest home where Emily lived with her elderly mother and brother, she told them about her day. "You did the right thing, my dear," said Mrs. Clare, stroking her daughter's hair. "Your father would be proud." Emily looked at the photo on the shelf. Robert Johnson smiled in the picture, wearing his driver's uniform. He had passed away 15 years ago when she was just 10, leaving the family in a difficult situation. "Mom, do you think I should accept Mr. Morgan's offer?" "What does your heart say?" "That the boy needs someone." I saw the same loneliness in his eyes that little Mark felt before we found the special school. Mark, her 25-year-old brother, was in his room watching cartoons, his favorite activity. He had been born with cerebral palsy and an intellectual disability, but he was the joy of the house. "Then you already have your answer," Mrs. Clare smiled. The next day, Emily called Richard. She would accept the offer, but with conditions. She wanted flexible hours to care for her mother and brother, and insisted her role would be as Peter's friend and helper, not a maid. "Perfect," Richard agreed immediately. "When can you start?" "Monday? Peter will be thrilled." "Oh, Emily. Thank you. Yesterday was the first time in months I saw my son genuinely happy. Over the weekend, Emily prepared. She researched Down syndrome, educational activities, and ways to stimulate learning. She wanted to make a difference in Peter's life. Monday arrived. Emily rang the doorbell of the Morgan mansion in the Upper East Side, awed by the size of the property. An elderly woman answered. "You must be Emily. I'm Martha. I've taken care of the house for 30 years. Welcome." "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Martha." "Just Martha is fine. Come in. Peter has been excited all morning. He wouldn't stop asking if the cupcake friend was really coming." Emily smiled. As she entered the living room, she saw Peter sitting on the couch, swinging his legs eagerly. When he spotted her, his face lit up. "Emily, you came. Dad, look, Emily's here." Richard appeared, dressed in an impeccable suit. He looked more rested than on Saturday. "Good morning, Emily. Peter hasn't talked about anything else all weekend." "Good morning. Ready to play, Peter?" "Yes, come on, I'll show you my room." As Peter pulled Emily upstairs, Richard watched her. There was something familiar about her he couldn't place. Maybe it was just her natural kindness, something rare to find. Peter's room was a child's dream. Toys everywhere, a race car-shaped bed, shelves full of books and games. But Emily noticed many toys were still in their boxes, untouched. "Do you like building things, Peter?" "I do, but it's hard. My hands aren't very good at it." Emily sat on the floor and picked up a box of building blocks. "How about we try together? I'll hold the pieces and you tell me where to put them." For 2 hours, they built castles, cars, and spaceships. Peter laughed and clapped with each finished creation. Emily noticed his motor difficulties, but also his determination. "Emily, why don't the other kids like me?" The question caught her off guard. She stopped building and looked into his eyes. "Peter, some people are afraid of what they don't understand, but that's their problem, not yours. Am I different?" "We're all different in some way. Do you know what makes you special?" Peter shook his head. "Your huge heart. You see the best in people. That's a superpower." "Really?" "Absolutely. And you know what else? The best friends are the ones who like you just the way you are." Peter hugged Emily tightly. Just then, Richard appeared at the door. He had come back from the office to have lunch at home, something he rarely did. "Having fun?" "Dad, Emily said I have a superpower." "And you do, champ. Ready for lunch?" During lunch, Emily observed the dynamic between father and son. Richard was clearly devoted, but there was an emotional distance, as if he was afraid of getting too close. Peter, on the other hand, constantly sought his father's approval. "Mr. Morgan, may I suggest something? Please call me Richard. And yes, I'm open to suggestions. I've noticed Peter has a lot of creative energy. Have you ever thought about enrolling him in an artistic activity? Music, painting? The doctors say he has limitations. With all due respect, the doctors don't know Peter the way we're getting to know him. Every child is unique." Richard grew thoughtful. Since Peter's diagnosis as a baby, he had strictly followed every medical recommendation, every protocol. Maybe it was time to take a chance. "What do you suggest?" "I know a music teacher who works with special needs children. Can I arrange a visit?" "If Peter wants to—" "I do," the boy exclaimed. "I want to learn music." That afternoon, Emily established a routine. Educational activities, mixed with play, always respecting Peter's pace. At 5 o'clock, as she prepared to leave, Peter held her hand. "Will you come back tomorrow?" "Yes, I will, every day, Monday through Friday, I promise." On her way home, Emily received a call from an unknown number. "Emily Johnson?" "Yes, who's speaking?" "My name is Laura Williams. I'm the academic coordinator at St. Lawrence Academy. I heard about what happened at Peter Morgan's birthday party." Emily's stomach dropped. The most exclusive school in New York City, where Peter attended. "And what do you want?" "I'd like to speak in person." "Can you come to the school early tomorrow?" "I need to be with Peter by 9. Come at 7:30, it's important." Emily agreed, puzzled. What did the school coordinator want with her? That night, she barely slept. There was something strange about the whole situation. The empty party, Richard's sad expression, now this mysterious call. The next morning, Emily arrived at the imposing St. Lawrence Academy. Laura Williams was waiting for her in the principal's office, a middle-aged woman with a stern demeanor. "Thank you for coming, Emily. I'll be direct. I heard you're working with Peter Morgan." "Yes, as a caregiver and friend. I need to warn you about a few things. Peter has trouble fitting in here at school." "What kind of trouble?" Laura hesitated before continuing. "The other parents have concerns. They think Peter holds their children back." Emily felt anger rise. "Are you saying Peter faces prejudice at his own school?" "I'm saying the situation is delicate. Richard Morgan is a powerful man, and he makes generous donations to the school. But some parents are threatening to withdraw their children if Peter keeps studying here," Emily finished, disgusted. "This isn't my personal opinion, understand, but I have to balance everyone's interests." Emily stood abruptly. "You know what I think, Mrs. Williams? You and this school should be ashamed. Peter has just as much right to be here as any other child." "Emily, be reasonable." "Reasonable? You think it's reasonable to exclude a child because he has Down syndrome? I'm telling Richard." "Everything just wait." Laura stood too. "If you do that, you'll only make things worse for Peter. Richard could sue the school, create a scandal, and in the end, who would suffer?" Emily stopped at the door. As much as she hated to admit it, Laura was right. A scandal could expose Peter even more. "What do you suggest then?" "That you work with us. Help Peter adapt better, to fit. And we can slowly change the other parents' perceptions." "Under what conditions?" "Come to the school once a week, observe Peter in the school environment, write a report on what could be improved, be our bridge with the Morgan family." Emily considered the proposal. It could be a chance to change things from within. "I'll think about it. I need to go now. Peter is waiting for me." When she arrived at the mansion, she found Richard in the garden talking on the phone. He seemed angry. "I don't care how much it costs. I want the best specialists," he shouted. Seeing Emily, he signaled for her to wait and ended the call. "Sorry, work problems. Peter's in the TV room." "Richard, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course. Is something wrong?" Emily chose her words carefully. "Do you know how Peter is doing at school?" Richard tensed. His report. "Cards say he's progressing as expected." "Why?" "Just curious. He mentioned he doesn't have many friends there." "Peter has socialization difficulties. The doctors say it's common." Emily realized Richard had no idea what was really happening at school. She decided to investigate further before saying anything. With Peter, the day was productive. They did motor coordination exercises, practiced reading, and Emily was impressed by his potential. With patience and the right encouragement, Peter could go far beyond what everyone expected. "Emily, do you have kids?" Peter asked while they drew. "I don't, but I have a brother I love very much." "Is he like me?" "In a way, yes. He's special too." "I wish I had a brother." "Dad says I can't." Emily noticed the sadness in the boy's voice. She changed the subject, suggesting they bake cookies. Martha allowed them to use the kitchen, watching approvingly as Emily involved Peter in every step. "It's been years since I've seen this kitchen so lively," Martha whispered. While the cookies baked, Peter showed Emily a photo album. "This is my mum." He pointed to a beautiful woman with a radiant smile. Emily looked at the photo and felt a chill. Helen Morgan looked familiar, but she couldn't place where from. "She's in heaven," Peter continued. "Dad says she watches over me from there. I'm sure she does. She was very beautiful. Dad doesn't like to talk about her. It makes him sad." Emily hugged Peter. There was so much pain in that house, hidden behind luxury and material comfort. In the following days, Emily established a routine with Peter. Mornings dedicated to educational activities, afternoons filled with play and exercises. The boy flourished with the attention and affection. On Friday, Emily took Peter to meet the music teacher she'd mentioned. Arthur Mitchell was a man in his 60s, with endless patience and a special gift for working with special needs children. "Peter has a natural rhythm," Arthur said after an hour-long assessment. With work, he could develop significant musical skills. Peter was beaming, trying out different instruments. He chose the keyboard, fascinated by the sounds he could create. "Can I learn, Emily, really?" "Of course you can. Let's talk to your dad." When they returned, Richard was home, which was rare for a Friday afternoon. He looked tired, with deep circles under his eyes. "How was the music lesson?" "Dad, it was amazing. The teacher said I have talent. Can I keep going, please?" Richard looked at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. "If you promise to practice—" "I promise. I'll practice every day." Peter ran to hug his father, who returned the embrace somewhat awkwardly. Emily noticed that Richard had trouble with physical displays of affection. "Emily, can you stay a bit longer? I need to talk to you." After Peter went upstairs to shower, Richard served coffee on the balcony. "I'm worried about Peter at school. He doesn't say much, but I know something's wrong." Emily took a deep breath. This was the moment. "Richard, I need to tell you something." She recounted the conversation with Laura Williams, leaving out only the cruelest details. Richard listened in silence, his face growing redder by the second. "Those damn bigots! I'll sue the school. Richard, calm down. Think of Peter. A scandal won't help." "Then what do you suggest? That I accept this discrimination?" "I suggest we change things little by little. Let me go to school once a week, as Laura proposed. We'll show everyone who Peter really is." Richard ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "I pay a fortune for that school. I make huge donations, and they treat my son like this. Money doesn't change minds, Richard, but education and example do." He looked at her in surprise. Few people spoke to him so directly. "You're different, Emily. Where does this wisdom come from?" Emily smiled sadly. "From life, Richard. I learned early that the world can be cruel to those who are different, but I also learned we can change it, one person at a time." In that moment, a connection formed between them. Two adults united by love for a special child, each carrying their own pain and secrets. That weekend, Emily got an unexpected call. It was Charles Wilson, Richard's head of security. "Miss Johnson, can we talk in person? It's important." "About what?" "I'd rather not say over the phone." "May I come to your place?" Emily felt a chill. What did he want? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, continuing. Charles arrived Sunday morning. He was a middle-aged man with a military demeanor. "Sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but I need to clarify a few things." "What's this about?" "Mr. Morgan requested a routine background check on you, standard procedure for anyone working with Peter." Emily felt anger but tried not to show it. "And what did you find?" "Quite a few interesting things. Your father, Robert Johnson, worked for the Morgan family 20 years ago." Emily froze. This was a secret she'd guarded closely. "That's in the past. He was Mrs. Helen Morgan's driver. He was with her the day of the accident." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as painful memories flooded back. "Please don't tell Richard. He doesn't need to know." "Why hide it?" "Because I want to help Peter for who he is, not because of the past. My father died trying to save Helen Morgan, but that has nothing to do with my work now." Charles studied her for a long moment. "I'll keep it quiet for now. But the truth always comes out, Emily, and Richard deserves to know." After he left, Emily broke down in tears. Mrs. Clare hugged her. "Sweetheart, maybe it's time to tell everything." "I can't, Mum. If Richard finds out I'm the daughter of the driver who was with Helen during the accident, he'll send me away, and Peter needs me." "And you need Peter," her mother observed wisely. "I've seen how your eyes light up when you talk about him." It was true. In just a few weeks, Peter had completely won her heart. But there was more. Emily was developing feelings for Richard too, feelings she couldn't allow herself to have. Monday brought new challenges. Emily went to school to observe Peter. What she saw broke her heart. At recess, he stood alone in a corner, while the other children played. At lunch, he ate by himself. In group activities, no one wanted to pair up with him. The teacher, Susan, tried to include him, but the discomfort of the other students was visible. Some parents, picking up their children, looked at Peter with poorly disguised disdain. Emily took note of everything. On her way out, she approached a few mothers. "Excuse me, I'm Emily. I work with Peter Morgan. I'd like to talk about—" "We have nothing to discuss." One of them, Patricia Peterson, cut in sharply. "We've already made our position clear to the administration." "But do you even know Peter? Do you know how sweet and smart he is?" "Listen, young lady," another mother, Fiona Anderson, interrupted. "We don't want trouble. But our children have a right to an excellent education. Certain situations disrupt that. Situations? You're talking about a child. A child with limitations that affect the school environment, Patricia shot back. The other day, my son came home imitating Peter's way of speaking. That's unacceptable. Emily felt her blood boil. You know what's unacceptable? Teaching your children prejudice. Peter has more to teach them than you realize. How dare you? Fiona snapped. You're just a hired hand. I'm someone who cares, unlike you. Emily walked away before she said something worse. But a seed had been planted. She would make those women change their minds, even if it was the last thing she did. At home, Peter was quiet, unlike his usual self. How was school today, Peter? Fine, he answered without meeting her eyes. Peter, remember what we talked about friendship? The boy nodded. Sometimes it takes time to find the right friends, but they'll come. You're my friend, right, Emily? Forever. Richard came home early that day. He found Emily and Peter at the piano, practicing Arthur's lessons. Listen, Dad. Peter played a simple but harmonious melody. That's amazing, son. You're improving so fast. Emily helps me every day. She can play too. Richard looked at Emily in surprise. You play piano? A little. My father taught me when I was young. It was true. Robert Johnson, besides being a driver, was a musician in his free time. He played in bars on weekends to make extra money. Play something for us, Richard asked. Emily hesitated, but Peter insisted. She sat at the piano and played Debussy's Clair de Lune. The music flowed softly, filling the room with melancholy and beauty. When she finished, Richard had tears in his eyes. Helen loved this piece. She used to play it for Peter when he was a baby. A heavy silence fell over the room. Emily stood up, uncomfortable. I'm sorry, I didn't know. No, it was beautiful, thank you. Peter hugged Emily. You play just like Mommy did. Dad always cries when he hears this song. Richard quickly composed himself, returning to his controlled demeanor. Emily, would you join us for dinner tonight? I'd like to discuss the school report. During dinner, Emily carefully presented her observations. Richard listened intently, his expression growing darker with each detail. I'm pulling Peter out of that school tomorrow. No, Richard. Running away isn't the answer. Then what do you suggest? A plan. We'll organize events where parents can meet Peter in a neutral setting, show them his skills, his progress, change their perception little by little. Do you really think that will work? With patience and persistence, yes. Peter deserves the chance to prove himself. Richard looked at her with admiration. You fight for him as if he were your own. Emily lowered her eyes, moved. Peter has won my heart. I'd do anything for him. I know, and I'm eternally grateful for that. There was a tension in the air, an electricity between them that both tried to ignore. Richard was her employer. Anything more was out of the question. But the heart has its own rules. In the weeks that followed, Emily put her plan into action. She organized a music recital at the Morgans' home, subtly inviting some parents from the school. Seeing Peter playing the piano, focused and skilled, surprised many. He's really playing, whispered Patricia Peterson to another mother. Emily has been working hard with him, Martha, who was serving the canapes, casually remarked. The boy practices 2 hours a day. Such impressive dedication. Little by little, Peter's image began to change. Emily also worked with him on communication, helping him express himself better and control the impulses typical of his syndrome. But not everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, Emily arrived to find the house in chaos. Richard was shouting on the phone, Martha was crying in the kitchen, and Peter was locked in his room. What happened? Emily asked, alarmed. That viper. Richard threw the phone against the wall. My sister-in-law is trying to take Peter away from me. Emily felt her blood run cold. Martha explained between sobs. Mrs. Isabella, the late Helen's sister, filed for custody of Peter. She claims Mr. Richard isn't emotionally capable of caring for him. That's absurd, Emily exclaimed. She's always wanted my money. Richard was distraught. Now she's using Peter as an excuse. She says he needs a complete family, that a man alone can't raise a special needs child. Emily rushed upstairs to Peter's room. She found the boy hugging a pillow, crying. "Peter, sweetheart, what's wrong?" "Aunt Isabella said I'm going to live with her, that Daddy doesn't love me enough." "Is it true, Emily?" "Of course not. Your father loves you more than anything in the world. Then why does she want to take me away?" Emily hugged the boy, searching for the right words. "Sometimes adults get confused, but no one will separate you from your father. I promise. Will you stay with me?" "So always." When Peter had calmed down, Emily went downstairs. Richard was in the office with his lawyer. "The situation is delicate," Dr. Foster explained. "Isabella has arguments. Richard works long hours. Peter has special needs. There's no maternal figure." "That's ridiculous." Richard slammed his fist on the table. Emily knocked on the door. "Can I help in any way?" "Emily, I'm sorry about this." Richard looked defeated. "I didn't want to involve you. Peter is my responsibility too. What can I do?" Dr. Foster assessed her. "Your testimony would be valuable. You could attest to the care Peter receives, the family environment. I'll do whatever's necessary." "There's another issue," the lawyer continued. "Isabella claims you're just an employee, that Peter needs specialized professionals." "Emily has done more for Peter in 2 months than all the specialists in years." Richard exploded. "Calm down, we need to think strategically. Emily, what's your background?" Emily hesitated. "High school diploma, but I have hands-on experience with special needs children." "That's not enough for the court." Dr. Foster shook his head. An idea formed in Emily's mind. "What if I got qualified? There's an online special education course I can enroll right away." "That would help," the lawyer agreed. "But the hearing is in 3 months. Enough time to show progress." "Richard, do you trust me?" "Completely." "Then we'll fight. Isabella doesn't know the strength of the love in this house." That night, Emily stayed up late researching courses. Richard found her in the living room, surrounded by papers. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. For Peter and for you." They looked at each other, and once again that electricity hung in the air. "Emily, Richard began but stopped himself. "Thank you for everything." The following days were intense. Emily enrolled in the special education course, studying at night after caring for Peter all day. Richard hired the best lawyers to prepare their defense. Isabella Foster was a calculating woman. Widow of a bankrupt businessman, she lived for appearances and had always envied her sister's life. When Helen died, she tried to get close to Richard, but was rejected. Now, she was using Peter as a weapon. She showed up at the house one afternoon, without warning. Emily was in the garden with Peter when the luxury car pulled up the driveway. "Aunt Isabella!" Peter ran to greet her, always affectionate. "Hi, sweetheart. Look how big you've gotten." She hugged him, but her eyes were on Emily. "And you must be the famous Emily." "Nice to meet you." Emily extended her hand, which Isabella ignored. "Peter, darling, why don't you go get that drawing you made? Auntie wants to see it." "Wendy." The boy left. Isabella bared her claws. "I know who you are, an opportunistic waitress fooling my brother-in-law." "Excuse me. Don't play dumb. I've seen how Richard looks at you. Think you can take my sister's place?" Emily stayed calm, though she was seething inside. "I'm here for Peter, nothing else." "Of course you are," Isabella sneered. "And nobody like you working in a house like this. I know exactly what you're after. You know nothing about me. I know enough, and I'll make sure you disappear from my nephew's life." Peter came running back with his drawings, cutting the argument short. Isabella pretended interest, but Emily noticed how she scrutinized every detail, gathering ammunition for the lawsuit. "Peter, do you like living here?" Isabella asked casually. "I do. I have my room, my toys, Emily." "But don't you miss having a mommy?" Peter grew sad. "I do, but Daddy says Mommy watches over me from heaven." "What if you could have a new mommy? Living in a house with cousins to play with?" Emily quickly intervened. "Peter, why don't you show your aunt how you've been playing the piano?" "Good idea, come on, Auntie." During Peter's performance, Emily texted Richard, warning him about the visit. He arrived in 15 minutes, a record considering New York City traffic. Isabella, what an unpleasant surprise. Richard, darling, I came to see my nephew. I have that right. You do, scheduled and supervised per the court order. Always so formal. Helen hated that about you. The low blow landed. Richard clenched his fists, but Emily subtly touched his arm, calming him. Peter, go with Martha for a snack, Emily suggested. When they were alone, Isabella struck. I see you've already found a replacement for my sister. That was fast. Emily is Peter's professional caregiver, that's all. Of course, Isabella smirked. Is that why she lives here? She doesn't live here, Richard corrected. Not yet, Isabella grabbed her purse. See you in court. Oh, Emily dear, I hope you have a good lawyer. Suing employees who take advantage of vulnerable employers is my specialty. After she left, Richard collapsed onto the couch. She'll use everything against us. Any closeness between us will be twisted. Then we keep it professional, Emily said, though her heart broke. Peter is what matters. You're right. But Emily, he hesitated, what I feel for you, no. She, cut him off, not now. We can't give Isabella ammunition. The tension between them was palpable, but both knew Peter had to come first. In the weeks that followed, their routine grew more formal. Emily kept her distance from Richard, focusing entirely on Peter. The boy, sensitive as he was, noticed the change. Emily, did you and Daddy fight? No, sweetheart, why? You don't talk like before, you don't laugh together. Special children often have a keen sense for emotions. Emily hugged Peter. Everything's fine. We're just worried about grown-up stuff. Is it because of Aunt Isabella? Does she want to take me away? No one's taking you anywhere. You'll stay with your dad. But the truth was the lawsuit was getting complicated. Isabella had hired experts who questioned Peter's care. They claimed he needed full-time specialized therapists, not an unqualified nanny. Emily doubled down on her studies. She spent sleepless nights devouring books on special education, child development, and therapeutic techniques. During the day, she applied what she learned with Peter, documenting every bit of progress. A month before the hearing, Arthur Mitchell made a surprising proposal. Peter has exceptional talent. I'd like to enroll him in the National Youth Talent Festival. But he's so young, Emily hesitated. And with his limitations... Emily, stop seeing limitations. See possibilities. Peter could surprise everyone. Richard was consulted, and after much reluctance, agreed. It would be a chance to show the world what Peter was capable of. Rehearsals intensified. Peter practiced with touching dedication, determined to make Daddy proud. Emily spent hours by his side, encouraging him, correcting him with endless patience. One afternoon, during rehearsal, Peter missed a passage and grew frustrated. I can't do it. I'm stupid, just like they say at school. Peter! Emily hugged him tightly. You're not stupid. You're brave, talented, special. Why was I born like this, Emily? Why aren't I normal? The question broke Emily's heart. How could she explain to a child that normal was a relative concept? Peter, do you know what makes someone extraordinary? It's not being like everyone else. It's being unique, just like you. Your way of seeing the world, your pure heart, that's your superpower. But it's hard being different. I know, sweetheart, but the best people I've ever known were different. My father was different, my brother is different, and you're different. And I love you all exactly for that. Peter hugged her tightly. I love you too, Emily. I wish you were my mum. Emily held back tears. How could she explain that she wished for that too, but the adult world was too complicated? That night, Richard called her to talk. They were in his office, the safe distance of the desk between them. The lawyers are optimistic. Your reports on Peter's progress are impressive. He's surpassing himself every day. Emily, I need to ask you something. Richard hesitated. Why are you doing this? You could have an easier job without all this drama. Emily chose her words carefully. Because I believe in Peter and because... She stopped, almost revealing too much. Because? Because I know what it's like to lose someone we love too soon. Peter lost his mother. He can't lose his father too. Richard studied her intently. You lost someone? My father, when I was 10. I'm sorry. He was a good man. He taught me that what matters isn't what we have, but what we do with what we have. Wise man. If only he knew she was talking about the driver who died trying to save Helen. Emily pushed the thought away. Richard promised me something. No matter what happens in court, don't give up on Peter. I'd never give up on him. He's my life. Then we'll get through this, together. They held each other's gaze. And for a moment the professional barrier fell, but Emily quickly stood up. I have to go. Mum's waiting for me. Emily, Richard stood too. When this is over, we'll talk, she promised, leaving before they did. Something they'd regret. The festival was approaching, as was the hearing. The tension in the house was palpable. Peter sensed it and grew more anxious, making mistakes in passages he'd already mastered. 3 days before the festival, Emily arrived to find Peter crying. In his room, the sheet music torn on the floor. Peter, what happened? I'm not playing. I'll ruin everything. Aunt Isabella is right. I'm just a problem. Emily sat beside him, pulling him into her lap. Who told you that? I heard Aunt Isabella on the phone. She said I'm a burden to Dad, that he'd be happier without me. Emily's anger was so intense she had to take several deep breaths before speaking. Peter, look at me. Your aunt is wrong. You're the best thing that ever happened to your father. And in my life too. Really? Really, you know what we're going to do? We'll tape this sheet music back together and rehearse. You'll show everyone what you're capable of. She spent the entire afternoon rebuilding Peter's confidence. When Richard arrived, she pulled him aside and told him what happened. That damn woman. How dare she say that to my son? Richard, calm. Town, let's use this to our advantage. Record every interaction with Isabella from now on. You're brilliant. I'm just someone who loves... Emily caught herself. Who cares about Peter? Richard took a step toward her, but she retreated. Not yet, she whispered. The day of the festival arrived. The Metropolitan Opera House was packed. Emily had convinced some parents from the school to attend, a strategic move. Backstage, Peter was pale with nerves. What if I make a mistake? Then you keep playing. Emily adjusted his bow tie. What matters isn't being perfect. It's being... you. Emily, will you stay with me on stage? I'll be in the front row cheering for you, but Peter, you're the one who's going to shine out there. Richard appeared, elegant in his tuxedo. How's my pianist doing? Scared, Dad. Richard knelt before his son. You know what your mother used to say when I got nervous? That fear is just love wanting to get everything right. You love music, don't you? I do. Then let that love guide your fingers. It was the first time Emily had seen Richard speak so openly about Helen to Peter. The boy hugged his father tightly. I'll play for Mom too. She'll be listening. I'm sure of it. When Peter was called to the stage, Emily went to the audience. She sat between Richard and Martha, who was already crying with emotion before it even began. Peter looked small on the grand stage, but when his hands touched the first notes, a transformation happened. The music flowed with such purity and emotion that it silenced the crowd. Emily saw Patricia Peterson cover her mouth in surprise. Fiona Anderson discreetly wiped away tears. Even Isabella, sitting a few rows back, seemed moved. When Peter finished, silence lingered for a few seconds before the audience erupted in applause. Peter searched for Emily with his eyes and she waved, tears streaming freely. Backstage, Peter jumped into Emily's arms. I did it. Did you see? I didn't miss a single note. You were perfect. I'm so proud. Richard hugged them both, and for a moment they were a family. But Isabella appeared, breaking the spell. Congratulations, Peter, you played well. Thank you, Aunt. See how you excel with the right encouragement. At my house you'd have private tutors, therapists. Isabella, stop, Richard intervened. I'm just thinking about my nephew's well-being. Emily did a good job, I admit. But Peter needs real professionals. Emily was about to respond, but Peter stepped forward. Emily is a real professional. She teaches me every day. She's the best teacher in the world. Peter is right, an unfamiliar voice chimed in. Everyone turned. Laura Williams stood there, accompanied by several school parents. We came to congratulate Peter, and to apologize, Laura continued. We were wrong. Your son has much to teach. All of us, Mr. Morgan. Patricia Peterson stepped forward. Emily, I owe you an apology especially. Today I saw what you've seen all along. Peter is an extraordinary child. Emily was speechless. Richard squeezed her hand discreetly. We'd like Peter to play at the school's end-of-year party, Fiona Anderson added. If you agree. Peter jumped with joy. Can I, Dad? Can I, Emily? Of course you can, Richard beamed. Isabella, seeing the tide turn, tried one last move. This is touching, but it doesn't change the facts. Peter needs a complete family structure. He has one, Emily said firmly. He has a father who loves him, a home full of warmth, friends, music. What more does a child need? A mother, Isabella shot back. A mother isn't just the one who gives birth, Martha, who rarely spoke up, said. It's the one who cares, who loves, who is present. Peter has that. Martha's meaningful glance at Emily didn't go unnoticed. Isabella stormed off, defeated for now. That night the Morgan household was celebrating. Peter couldn't stop talking about the recital, the applause, how his classmates now wanted to be his friends. Emily, did you see Greg? He said he wants to learn piano too. I did. You inspired a lot of people today. When Peter finally fell asleep, exhausted from all the excitement, Emily was preparing to leave when Richard called out to her. Stay a little longer. Let's celebrate properly. Martha had prepared a special supper. The three of them sat on the porch under the stars. Emily, I don't have the words to thank you for what you've done for Peter. For us. I'm the one who's grateful for the opportunity. Peter changed my life too. How? Emily thought, before answering. He taught me that love doesn't see limitations, that true strength lies in being vulnerable, that family is more than blood ties. You've become family to us, Richard said softly. The moment was interrupted by the phone. It was Dr. Foster with news. The hearing's been moved up. It's the day after tomorrow. The festive mood evaporated. The final battle was approaching. Are we ready? Richard asked anxiously. With Peter's performance today, the testimonies from the school parents, Emily's reports, we have an excellent chance. But Isabella has a trump card. What? She's going to argue that Emily has no formal ties to the family, that she's just an employee who could leave at any time. Richard looked at Emily. There was an obvious solution, but neither of them dared to say it out loud. We'll think of something, Emily said quickly. Peter is what matters. But that night she couldn't sleep. The solution pounded in her mind. If she and Richard... No, it was madness. They couldn't base something so serious on a legal necessity. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The next day was tense. Emily worked with Peter as usual, but he noticed the adults' worry. Is it because of the hearing? How do you know about that? I heard Dad on the phone. Does Aunt Isabella still want to take me? Emily hugged him. We'll fight for you to stay with your dad, I promise. And will you stay with me too? Whenever I can. That afternoon, Charles Wilson appeared. Emily froze when she saw him. I need to talk to you, alone. They went to the garden. Charles looked uneasy. What I found out about your father, Richard needs to know. Please, Charles, not now, after the hearing. And if Isabella finds out first? She's investigating everyone. Emily paled. If Isabella discovered and twisted the story, what do you suggest? Tell him yourself today, it's better coming from you. Emily knew he was right, but fear paralyzed her. How would Richard react when he learned she was the daughter of the man who was with Helen in the accident? That night after Peter fell asleep, Emily asked to speak with Richard. They were in the library, the place where it all began. Richard, I need to tell you something about my father. What about him? Emily took a deep breath. My father was Robert Johnson, your family's driver for 20 years. It took Richard a few seconds to process. Robert? He was with Helen. When? Yes, in the accident. He died trying to save her. The silence was devastating. Richard stood up and walked to the window. Did you know from the beginning? Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to think I was Here out of pity or obligation. I fell in love with Peter the moment I saw him. The past had nothing to do with it. You fell in love with Peter, Richard repeated slowly. And with me. The question caught Emily off guard. Richard, he turned, his eyes full of emotion. Because I fell in love with you, Emily. I've tried to fight it, but it's impossible. You brought light into this house, into our lives. We can't. The hearing, Isabella. To hell with Isabella. Richard stepped closer. Emily, what I feel for you is real. It has nothing to do with the past, with Helen, with anything except who you are. I feel something for you too, Emily admitted, tears streaming down. But it's too complicated. Peter loves you. Just today he said he wanted you to be his mother. Richard, we can't base a relationship on a legal need. It's not about that. It's about love, the love that already exists between the three of us. He pulled her into his arms, and Emily couldn't resist any longer. The kiss was sweet, full of promises and fears. And now, Emily whispered when they parted, now we fight. Together. For Peter. For us. The hearing is tomorrow. We don't have time. Emily Johnson, will you marry me? She stepped back, shocked. What? It's not the most romantic proposal, I know, but it's sincere. I love you. Peter loves you. Be our family, officially. Richard, marriage is serious. It can't be because of a case. It's not because of the case. It's in spite of it. Emily, these past months, you've become essential to us. I can't imagine life without you anymore. Emily looked into his eyes and saw the truth. It wasn't legal desperation. It was genuine love. I need to think. It's a lot. I understand. But Emily, no matter your answer, know that you've changed our lives forever. Emily left the house with her head spinning. Marriage, it was crazy. Or was it? At home, she told her mother everything. Do you love him? Mrs. Clare asked simply. I think so. No, I'm sure I do. And I love Peter as if he were my own son. Then what's the doubt? It's too fast, and people will say I married for money. Since when do you care what others say? Emily, your father died trying to save that boy's mother. Maybe this is destiny giving you a chance to complete the circle. Emily stayed up all night. By morning, she'd made her decision. She arrived early at the Morgan house. Richard was at the breakfast table, with deep circles under his eyes. You didn't sleep either? How could I? Emily, about yesterday. Yes, she said simply. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you, but with conditions. Richard stood, his face lighting up. Any conditions. First, we tell Peter, and we only do this if he approves. Second, no fancy wedding. Something simple, intimate. Third, I continue studying and working with special needs children. I accept everything. Emily, you've made me the happiest man in the world. We need to tell Peter. They went together to the boys' room. Peter was awake, playing with his toy cars. Good morning, champ. Can we talk? Good morning, Dad. Emily, you're here. Hurley. They sat on the bed with him. Richard took the lead. Peter, you know I love you very much, right? I know, Dad. And you like Emily. I love Emily. She's my best friend. How about if she were more than a friend? If she were your mother? Peter's eyes widened. Really? Emily's going to be my mom? If you want her to be, Emily said softly. Peter jumped into her arms. Yes, I really want to. Are we going to be a real family? We are, Richard hugged them both. A real family. The morning was a whirlwind. Richard called the lawyer, who was thrilled with the news. They arranged the necessary documents for an urgent civil marriage. I got an emergency order, Dr. Foster informed them. Given the circumstances, the judge authorized the marriage to proceed immediately. At 2 p.m. at the courthouse, Emily and Richard got married. Peter was the best man, holding the rings with extreme care. Martha and Mrs. Clare were the witnesses, both crying with emotion. You may kiss the bride, the judge declared. The kiss was brief, but full of meaning. Peter clapped enthusiastically. Now Emily is my real mum. That evening they all went to the hearing. Isabella nearly had a fit when she saw the rings. This is a scam, a marriage of convenience. It's a marriage of love, Richard calmly countered. Something you wouldn't understand. The judge, Dr. Martin, was known for being strict but fair. He listened to all the arguments, reviewed the reports and testimonies. "Mrs. Foster," he addressed Isabella, "you claim that Peter needs a complete family structure. From what I see, he has exactly that. Her devoted father, a mother who, even if not biological, shows exceptional love and competence. But, Your Honor, this marriage happened today. It's clearly a maneuver. Or it's the formalization of something that already existed," the judge retorted. "I've seen the festival videos, read Peter's progress reports. This child is thriving." Peter, who had been quiet until then, raised his hand. "Can I speak, Mr. Judge?" "Of course, Peter. I love my dad, and I love Emily. She takes care of me, teaches me, plays with me. I don't want to go live with Aunt Isabella. I want to stay with my family." Peter's sincerity moved everyone in the room. Even some court staff discreetly wiped away tears. "This court's decision is clear," Dr. Martin declared. "Custody remains with the father. Mrs. Foster's request is denied. Case closed." The burst of joy was immediate. Peter jumped into Richard and Emily's arms. Martha wept openly. Mrs. Clare thanked the heavens. Isabella left furiously but first approached Emily. "This won't last. When he gets tired of you, he'll discard you like he did all the others." "There were no others," Martha intervened. "Mr. Richard never looked at another woman since Helen passed away, until Emily came along." Emily didn't respond. She didn't need to. The victory spoke for itself. At home, the celebration was intimate. Peter didn't want to let go of Emily. "Now you live here? You'll sleep here every day?" Emily looked at Richard. They hadn't discussed the practical details. "Yes," Richard answered. "Emily will live with us. She's our family now. And my mom, my brother. We have plenty of rooms. They'll always be welcome whenever they want." Richard's generosity moved her. It wasn't about possessions. It was about opening his heart and home to her family too. That night, after Peter fell asleep, Emily and Richard stayed on the porch. "What a day," she sighed. "The best of my life, after Peter's birth." "Richard, I want you to know I don't expect... we can take it slow." He silenced her with a kiss. "Emily, we've waited our whole lives for each other. But yes, we'll go at our own pace. We have our whole lives ahead of us." The first months of marriage were about adjustment. Emily moved her things in gradually, turning the mansion into a real home. Family photos appeared on the walls, including one of Robert Johnson that Richard himself insisted on hanging. "He was an honorable man," Richard said. "He deserves to be remembered." Peter flourished with the new family dynamic. His grades improved, he made friends at school, and he continued progressing with the piano. Emily accompanied him in all his activities, always encouraging, always present. Mrs. Clare and Mark visited often. Peter and Mark developed a beautiful friendship, two special boys who understood each other beyond words. "Emily," Peter said, one day, "can Mark be my cousin or brother?" "He's already family, sweetheart. You can call him whatever you want." "Then I have a brother," Peter celebrated. The family routine settled in sweetly. Noisy breakfasts, dinners full of conversation, weekends in the park. Emily continued her studies, now with Richard's full support. "I want to open a support center for special needs children," she shared her dream one evening. "Then let's open one. I have the resources, you have the knowledge and the heart. I don't want your money, Richard. I want to build something of our own. My money is our money now, but I understand. We'll do it your way." 6 months. After the wedding, Emily graduated in special education. The graduation party was small but emotional. Peter insisted on taking the diploma to school. "My mum is a real teacher now," he announced to everyone. It was on an ordinary afternoon that life surprised them. Emily hadn't been feeling well for days. Richard insisted she see a doctor. "It's probably just exhaustion," she downplayed. Emily Morgan doesn't downplay anything when it comes to Peter. You won't do that to yourself." The use of her married name still made her smile. They went to the doctor together, Richard insisting on accompanying her. After the tests, Dr. Smith returned with a smile. "Congratulations, you're going to have a baby." The silence in the office was absolute. Emily and Richard looked at each other, processing the news. "A baby?" Emily whispered. "Approximately 8 weeks, is everything all right? Everything's perfect, Richard hugged Emily, both crying with joy. At home, they planned how to tell Peter. They were afraid of his reaction. Would he feel replaced? Peter, remember how you said you wanted a sibling? Emily began at dinner. Yes, but I already have Mark. How about another brother or sister? Peter thought. That'd be cool, but where would we find one? Richard took his son's hand. In Emily's belly. Peter's eyes widened as he looked at Emily's stomach. There's a baby in there? Yes, Emily confirmed. You'll be the big brother. Me? A big brother? Peter processed it. Can I teach them things? So many things. Piano and games and... Peter was euphoric. When will they be here? In a few months. Peter ran to hug Emily carefully. I can't squeeze, right, so I don't hurt the baby? You can hug, the baby's protected. I'll be the best brother in the world, I promise. The pregnancy went smoothly. Peter talked to Emily's belly, every day telling stories, singing songs he learned on the piano. Baby, I learned a new song today, want to hear? He played diligently, believing the baby could hear and appreciate it. Emily kept working with Peter and developing the support center project. Richard proved to be a devoted husband, attentive to every need. You've given me everything, he said one night, stroking her now prominent belly. A complete family. Love, hope. We gave that to each other, Emily corrected. Love builds bridges where there seem to be only chasms. Then a shadow from the past reappeared. Emily was at the mall with Peter when she heard a familiar voice. Emily Johnson. Turning, she saw Karen, her former supervisor at the hotel. The woman looked aged, worn down. Karen. I heard you... Karen's eyes went to Emily's belly, then to Peter. So it's true. You married Richard Morgan. Yes. This is Peter, my son. Hi. Peter greeted cheerfully. Do you know my mum? We knew each other. We worked together. Karen seemed to want to say more, but held back. Well, it was interesting seeing you. Excuse me. Karen, wait, Emily called. Are you okay? I'm great. The bitterness in her voice was clear. Unlike you, I didn't find a millionaire to fix my life. It wasn't like that. Spare me. Karen walked away. Peter sensed the tension. Was she mean to you? No, sweetheart. We just had different ideas. But the encounter left Emily thoughtful. How many people thought like Karen, that she was an opportunist? At home, she told Richard about the encounter. Don't worry about what others think, he hugged her. We know the truth. I know, but sometimes it hurts. What matters is our family, Peter, you, our baby, the rest is just noise. He was right. Emily decided to focus on what truly mattered. The support center began to take shape. Emily gathered a team of professionals passionate about special education. The chosen location was an old mansion downtown, which they lovingly renovated. What will it be called? Peter asked, helping pick out wall colors. I'm not sure yet. Why don't you suggest something? Peter thought very seriously. Embrace House. Why? Because hugs make everything better, and special kids need lots of hugs. Emily exchanged an emotional glance with Richard. Out of the mouths of babes. Embrace House is perfect, she agreed. The opening was a simple but meaningful event. Families of special needs children attended, along with professionals and friends. Peter played the piano at the ceremony, proud of woe. His role. This house was born from a hug, Emily said in her speech, her hand on her belly. The hug I gave Peter on a birthday. May it be a place where all children feel embraced. Laura Williams was present, representing the Academy. Emily, congratulations on this initiative. We'd like to establish a partnership. That would be wonderful. The school's change in attitude was remarkable. Peter was now included, respected, even admired by his classmates. 8 months into her pregnancy, Emily had to slow down. Peter became her official assistant. You stay seated, I'll get things, he insisted. Peter, I can still move, but you have to take care of the baby. One afternoon while resting, Emily felt the first contractions. Richard was in a meeting, Peter at school. Martha, she called. The housekeeper came running. Is it time? I think so. What followed was an organized frenzy. Richard was notified. Peter picked up from school. At the hospital, the family gathered. "Can I go in?" Peter asked eagerly. "Not yet, champ," Richard explained, "but soon you'll meet your brother or sister." After 6 hours of labor, Helen was born. Yes, Helen, like Richard's first wife. It was Emily's idea. "Are you sure?" Richard asked, moved. "She's part of our story. Peter deserves that connection." When Peter met his sister, it was love at first sight. "She's so tiny," he whispered in awe. "Hi, Helen. I'm Peter, your brother. I'll take care of you forever." The baby grasped Peter's finger, sealing the promise. Life with 2 children brought new challenges. Peter proved to be an exemplary brother, always eager to help, sometimes too eager. "Peter, let Helen sleep," Emily laughed. "But she needs to hear music to get smart. She's already smart, and she needs sleep to grow." Embrace House flourished. Every child helped was a victory. Emily applied everything she'd learned with Peter, adapting to each individual need. One day, a desperate mother arrived. "They say you work miracles. My son, the doctors say he'll never speak." Emily recognized the despair, the same she'd seen in Richard at the beginning. "We don't work miracles, but we believe in every child's potential. Shall we meet your son?" Matthew was 4 years old with severe autism. He didn't speak, avoided eye contact, and spent hours in repetitive motions. "Can I try?" Peter, who was at the house that day, asked. Emily hesitated but trusted Peter's instinct. He sat near Matthew, not too close, and began playing a small keyboard. Matthew stopped his repetitive movements, tilting his head slightly. Peter kept playing, not forcing interaction. After 15 minutes, Matthew inched closer. Peter smiled but didn't stop playing. "He's never done that," the mother whispered, tears in her eyes. "Peter has a gift," Emily explained. "He understands the language of silence. It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship." Matthew started visiting the house, always gravitating around Peter. After months, he said his first word, "Music." "You did this," Emily hugged Peter. "You gave him a voice." "It wasn't me. It was the music. I just showed him the way." Peter's wisdom at 14 amazed everyone. Down syndrome didn't limit his ability to understand the world in a unique and beautiful way. Helen grew up surrounded by love. At 2, she was a happy, bright child, adored by her older brother. "Sis, come," Peter called her for everything. "Pepo," she tried to say his name. "No, it's Peter. Pepo." "Okay, Pepo," he laughed. The family's harmony was clear. Richard, once a closed-off and formal man, now laughed openly, played on the floor with his children and showed affection without reservation. "You've changed me," he told Emily one night. "All of you. Peter, you, Helen. I'm a new man." "You've always been this man. You just needed to let him out." That's when Isabella reappeared, no longer as a threat, but as a broken woman. Emily found her at the door of Embrace House, unrecognizable. Thin, worn, aged. "Isabella." "Emily, I need to talk to you." She took her to the office, served coffee. "What happened?" "I lost everything. My husband left me, took what little money was left. I'm sick." Emily looked beyond. The woman who had tried to destroy her family. She saw a human being in pain. "How can I help?" Isabella began to cry. "I don't deserve your help. I was awful to you, to Peter. That's in the past. What do you need now?" "Treatment, but I can't afford it. I don't even have health insurance anymore." Emily didn't hesitate. "We'll take care of it. Richard has connections at the best hospitals." "Richard, he hates me." "Richard loves his family. And like it or not, you're Peter's aunt. Family." Convincing Richard wasn't easy. "She tried to take Peter from us, and she failed. Richard, she's sick, alone. We can afford to be compassionate." "You're too good, Emily. I learned from Peter. He would forgive." It was true. When Peter heard about the situation, he was the first to want to help. "Aunt Isabella is sick. Can we take care of her?" "You want that?" Richard asked, surprised. "She's family. Family takes care of family." And so Isabella was welcomed. She didn't live with them, but she received support for treatment. Over time, she genuinely changed. I was blind, she said at a family dinner. Jealousy, envy, kept me from seeing the treasure Peter is. Auntie, Peter hugged her, you weren't blind. You were just sad. Peter's capacity for forgiveness never ceased to amaze. Embrace House became a reference. Families came from far and wide seeking help. Emily built teams, trained professionals, but kept a personal touch in every interaction. A special day came when Mark, Emily's brother, got his first job, at the house helping with organization. I'm working, he announced proudly. I'm useful. You always were, Emily hugged him. Now others can see it too. Peter, at 16, became the house's unofficial ambassador. He gave talks at schools, played at awareness events, shared his story. People see me and think I'm limited, he said with striking clarity. But everyone has limits. The difference is mine are visible. That makes me more honest. Richard watched with unmistakable pride. He's extraordinary, he whispered to Emily. He always was. We just took too long to see it. Helen at 4 showed signs of sharp intelligence, but what impressed most was her empathy, clearly learned from her brother. Mommy, why doesn't that child talk? She asked about a boy at the house. Everyone has their own way of communicating, not always with words. Like Peter taught me, sometimes a hug says it all. Exactly. The family grew in love and purpose. Emily opened new branches of Embrace House in other cities. Richard used his business influence to promote inclusion in the corporate world. It all started with a cupcake, Peter said on his 18th birthday. Emily gave me a cupcake and changed my life. You changed mine, Emily replied emotionally. We changed together, Richard added, hugging the family. Mrs. Clare, now elderly but sharp, watched everything with satisfaction. Robert would be proud, she told Emily. You've come full circle. It was true. Robert Johnson's sacrifice saving Helen Morgan had planted a seed. Emily, by welcoming Peter, made that seed bloom into a mighty tree of love and acceptance. Peter's high school graduation was a moving event. He gave the valedictorian speech, chosen unanimously by his classmates. They said I wouldn't make it, that my limitations would hold me back. But I've learned that limitations are just the starting point. With love, support, and determination, we can go beyond. Thank you to everyone who believed in me, especially my family, my dad, who never gave up, my mom Emily, who showed me family is about choice and love, my sister Helen, who teaches me every day that love has no barriers. And thank you to each of you, my friends, for looking beyond labels. The auditorium erupted in applause. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Patricia Peterson, the same mother who once discriminated against Peter, wept openly. Forgive me, she sought Emily afterward. Fear blinded me. Peter has taught my son more than any class ever could. You were forgiven long ago. Emily hugged the woman. We've all grown. Peter decided to study music therapy in college. I want to do for kids what music did for me, he explained. You'll be brilliant, Richard supported. Like in everything you do, college brought new challenges. Some professors doubted Peter's abilities, but with the resilience he'd developed, he proved his worth. You know what I've learned? He told Emily after his first semester. People underestimate what's different, but when we show what we're capable of, we change perspectives. Helen, now 6, was her brother's biggest fan. When I grow up, I want to be like Peter. Be like Helen, Peter corrected gently. The world needs you being yourself. Embrace House celebrated its 10th anniversary with a big party. Hundreds of families they'd helped attended. Children who arrived unable to speak now sang. Teens who'd been written off were in college. This all started with you, Emily told Peter. No, Mum, it started with your open heart. I was just the door. Matthew, the non-verbal autistic boy, now a teenager, took the stage. With effort but clearly, he said, Thank you, Embrace House. Thank you, Peter, you gave me a voice. That was the cue for emotions to overflow. Emily hugged Peter. Richard wrapped his arms around them both, and Helen squeezed into the middle. A family forged in love, acceptance, and perseverance. Isabella, fully recovered and transformed, now worked as a volunteer at the house. I found my purpose, she said. to help where I once only caused harm. Charles Wilson, the security guard who nearly revealed Emily's secret, became Helen's godfather and the family's fierce protector. "You taught me family goes beyond blood," he confessed at a Sunday barbecue. Martha, the loyal housekeeper, was now more a grandmother than an employee. "I've seen this house reborn," she said proudly, "from a mausoleum to a home." When Peter graduated with his degree in music therapy, the celebration was even bigger. He hadn't just completed his program. He'd been invited to pursue a master's. "They say I want to research music's influence on special needs children's development," he announced. "You'll revolutionize the field," Emily predicted. "It's already revolutionized our lives," Richard added. Helen, now a preteen, was developing an interest in medicine. "I want to understand how Peter's special brain works," she'd say, "and all the kids at the house." "We're not special," Peter corrected. "We're unique, like everyone else." Peter's philosophy permeated everything. Embrace House became an international model. Professionals came to study the methods developed by Emily and her team. "The secret is that there is no secret," Emily would explain. "It's about seeing the child, not the diagnosis. Love first, technique after." One ordinary morning, Emily found Richard in the office, looking at old photos. "Remember this day?" He showed her the photo from Peter's birthday, when they first met. "How could I forget? The day that changed everything. I saved our family, Emily. We saved each other. Love did the rest." Peter burst in excitedly. "Mom, Dad, I did it. I got accepted into the PhD program. And there's more. They want me to develop a music therapy program for public schools." The hugs were effusive. The boy they said had limitations was about to impact thousands of lives. "You know what this means?" Peter continued. "Kids like me in public schools will have access to music therapy. We are changing the system from the inside." It was the fulfillment of a dream. Emily remembered the day Laura Williams said the system was hard to change. Peter was proving her wrong. Helen came home from school with news of her own. "I was elected student council president, and my first act will be creating an inclusion program." "Learned from the best," Richard teased, ruffling her hair. "Learned from all of you," she corrected. "We're a family of change-makers." That evening, during their usual expanded dinner, with Mrs. Clare, Mark, Martha, sometimes Isabella, and Charles, Emily looked around at her unlikely family. "What are you thinking?" Richard asked. "How love builds bridges. My father died saving his first wife. Years later, I saved her son with a cupcake. And here we are. Full circle," Mrs. Clare murmured. "Robert always said love finds its way." Peter raised his juice glass. "A toast to the family we chose, to the bonds we've made, to love that transforms." Everyone cheered. Outside, life in New York City buzzed on. But inside that once empty, silent house love had created a universe of possibilities. "You know my next project," Peter announced. "An international festival for special talents. Show the world what we're capable of." "Ambitious," Emily smiled. "Learned from the best. You took an empty party and turned it into a full life." Tears welled in her eyes. Richard squeezed her hand under the table. "Count on our support," he promised, "for this and any dream you have." "I can help organize," Helen offered. "Me too," Mark added. "See?" Peter grinned, that smile that lit up rooms. This is family, dreaming together, achieving together." Martha brought out dessert, a cake decorated with musical notes, made it special to celebrate all this family's victories. As they ate, Peter played the piano. Claire de Lune, the song that once made Richard weep with longing, now made them all cry with gratitude. The future looked bright. Embrace House would keep growing. Peter would revolutionize music therapy. Helen would become a doctor specializing in neurodiversity. Emily would expand her inclusion work. But in that moment, they were just a family, bound not by blood or convention, but by choice, by love, by triumph. "Mom," Peter called from the piano, "remember what you said on our first day, that my big heart was my superpower?" "I remember. You were wrong. My superpower was finding you, our family." Emily went to him, hugging him tight. Our superpower was finding each other, all of us. Richard joined the embrace. Helen jumped in the middle. Mark came too. Even Martha and Mrs. Clare stepped into the circle. There, in that collective hug, was proof that love knows no limits. That family is built. That a simple gesture, a cupcake offered with care, can change destinies. From the boy rejected on his own birthday to the young doctor who would change lives. From the waitress who lost her job out of compassion to the educator who revolutionized inclusion. From the grieving father to the whole and happy man. Stories of overcoming, of love, of family, and it all started with a cupcake and the decision not to turn away. Peter was right in his simple yet profound wisdom. The world needed more hugs. And they, that unlikely and perfect family, were living proof that hugs can change the world. One hug at a time. One open heart at a time. One transformed life at a time. The end of the story. And what about you, dear listener? What did you think of this touching journey? Have you witnessed the transformative power of love and acceptance? Share your thoughts in the comments about the story of Peter and Emily. Can a simple act of kindness really change so many lives? We'd love to hear your opinion. If this story touched your heart, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.